Well, beautiful intro into the game as we go straight into the bottom left-hand side of Everdream with our red Zerg, Stephano.
And up at the top right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Terran player from Team Makers. It is souL. That was a pretty funky beat.
I was about to say that intro music makes me think souL's walking out into like some contestant show, you know, like he's like next competitor is souL. He's like, hey guys, I'm souL. I'm from Poland. I'm usually a StarCraft pro, and I'm gonna win it all today. So yeah, I like
think you can dance? Like he comes out with a big afro and everything.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. All right, well, this honestly should be a very interesting TVZ. Starting on Everdream, I feel like this is just comfort zone for both players. Definitely a map where souL can get up to 3, 4, 5 bases if he wants to, and souL will do that. One of the things that's always worth knowing about souL is that when he's ahead, sometimes he will just slap down a bunch more CCs and he will just stay ahead. Macro hardcore, get in a position where he really just feels like he can never lose, and he kind of has some fun with it. What's scary is that Stephano will just embrace that with open arms and say, oh, you want to play late game? How late do you want to go? And, you know, maybe souL should have a bit more of a killer instinct against Stephano than he does in some of the other games that he plays.
Yeah, I'll definitely be interested to see how exactly souL wants to approach this, because I agree, Stephano, I mean, it's an old school thing for him, right? Of how far back you go of Stephano just being able to play super duper late game in TVZ or whatever other matchup. He does end up feeling pretty comfortable, but I do wonder kind of where Stephano's exact skill level is going to be. You kind of mentioned before, he hasn't been playing a lot of the other random online events. In fact, just to give you an example, the last time these two guys played against each other was over a year ago in like a home story cup. So, I mean, they don't really encounter each other too often. And Stephano's been busy literally programming video games. Like that's what he has been working on. So I am a little bit concerned Stephano may not actually have as good mechanics for like that hyper late game situation right now.
That's very true. Yeah, it's fun that they've just not played each other, right? Because it's funny because souL plays everything. Like, you know, souL, I'm like planning a tournament. It's not even announced, and souL's like, hey, I want to play. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, I know you're planning something, Lordy, and I want to be your first invite. I'm like, I mean, I just got to give it to you. You know, you're so smart. But Stephano really doesn't play anything at all. And that's fun to then, it almost makes him like that mystery figure, right? Because there is that big difference between what you can do on the ladder, and he does win games off really good players on the ladder. He takes showtime to late game scenarios all the time. But can he put that into a tournament? Can he put that into a best of 3 series as well? That's obviously another big important question to ask. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, Stephano has always, I mean, he's never been, I should say, the player that you're like, well, Stephano trained really hard, you know, practiced 12 hours a day for this match. Like that's never been Stephano. It's never the way that we think about Stephano. So if there's someone who can bring it back in skill, we'll see. That's probably going to be him. I really like this Evo chamber block. Keeping those Hellions out, has not really lost too many drones so far. In fact, has lost 0 drones. Did just lose both of the Lings though. Snipes off the Reaper. Hellions looking for some damage. And remember, it takes 3 of these Hellions to one-shot the drones, but a few of them have been softened up. And only 1 drone goes down.
So much mining time lost though, right? Because it's not like he went in and got killed off. He went in and then he stayed around for so long. So I really do like that part of it. Stephano instantaneously throws down a Roach-Tron. He's like, I killed your Reaper. I killed a lot of your scouting. Maybe I can get across the map with a bit of a Roach-Ling all-in. I don't mind that call. Problem is, souL went into such a fast second rack and into Stim. He only just recently started 3rd CC, so he's going to have Stim against this, and if he sees the Roach-Roaring, he's going to be mega prepared.
Oh, 3 of the Hellions do manage to make their way into the middle line. This time getting a few more drones over here. The Hellion kind of bugs out as it gets trapped in behind that middle line. But we do have the Zerglings on the other side of the map, getting some damage onto one of the supply depots. Enough Marines have been made, though. So should be able to handle that. But I definitely agree. I feel like souL's got to feel really good about how all those little trades have gone.
Yeah, the information he's got is great. You know, the fact he went into Stim fast is only going to play into his strengths here, basically. He's already getting bunkers down with Stim. how do you ever break this as Stephano? I'm surprised Stephano's even making roaches still. This was, to me, absolutely a position where you just say, right, he's seen what I'm up to. I'm out of here, right? Let's just build more drones. Let's maybe start a lair, right? Let's change it up entirely. But nope, he's going to go for this Fear Dragon. And even right now, he's kind of supply blocked. It's not a pretty time to be supply blocked because you're wanting to be making those units that are going to come across and reinforce this, you know, those extra Zerglings, etc. So any delay on that only going to weaken the attack, especially when you're talking about, what, 2 siege tanks out in a moment, 15 Stin Marines with 2 bunkers. This attack is not destined to do much at all.
Oh man, I really like the positioning of that first siege tank in a really, really difficult spot to corrosive bile because you were going to have to walk straight into the range of every single one of these units. Now, I am a little bit worried because that supply depot on the right-hand side is not really creating a full wall. That little gap on both top and bottom of it, or to the right of it, are going to cause problems. But you can see Stephano does not really have enough that he feels comfortable trying to push in until just now. He gets off a couple corrosive biles on the siege tank. He does manage to pick off one of them, but the second one still remains.
Yeah, I mean, the second siege tank, you've still got 2 bunkers to break through, right? You've still got stims, so these lings are going to melt as the front line. And here we go. The Ravagers are trying to get in. They want that tank, but it comes at a huge cost. Not just the lings, but so many of the Ravagers going down. And of course, now we're just moments away from getting to another siege tank. And now there's no high ground vision, so you're going to have to deep dive for that kill. Trying to corrosive fire down the bunker. It will not fall. And Stephano is still not transitioning out of this. He's just making more lings and more roaches.
I feel like his time to go, and I don't even know if it really would have worked, but I feel like his time to go was when he got that second siege tank. He just had to commit over there because now, yeah, like you said, another siege tank is out. Combat shields is finished up. There's still multiple bunkers here, and now he's just going to get stimmed on, and boom, souL takes the first game.
Clean and simple, right? You know, from the first couple of Hellions, the Reaper get in, he slows it down. I don't mind Stephano's call of saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to drop a roach thrower in here. I actually think that's a really cool adjustment based on what's happening in the game. It may, you know, maybe that was his initial plan. Maybe it was just a reaction. But souL got the secondary scout. And that's why I feel like Stephano has to change his plan. Because then, especially with how souL's building, right? It's already bad that he sees it and he can prepare. But the fact he got such a fast second racks, he got stimmed so quickly, he didn't go into the fastest possible 3cc. Those are all things which help souL out massively. And you know, there was no point in this attack where it felt souL was in trouble, right? He always had a siege tank ready. You know, when he finally lost his next siege tank, the next one was a few seconds away from popping. Stephano had to wait for reinforcements. And then there was always just stims, so there was never enough lings. And it was just waiting for that moment where there wasn't that front line and souL could just stim on top of those Ravagers. And you just don't recover from that.
Yeah, when that kind of stuff gets scattered out or nice and early on and your opponent has the time to build those multiple bunkers to get the full wall off properly set up and everything, it's so difficult to make work against a top class player. Now, how do you feel, minus the fact that obviously it did get scouted, how do you feel about Stephano trying to go for that kind of style? Because I know we're sitting here talking about like, oh, Stephano and his late game plays and everything, but clearly trying to do something a bit cheesier, a bit more all in the earlier stages.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's a possibility, right? It's Golden Wall, which makes it kind of weird for anything, because I mean, it can make it weird in terms of, do you want to all in on Golden Wall because it's kind of a long rush distance? But it's also that chance if you get a gold base, you can power up and all in a bit better. But then if your opponent has a gold, I mean, depends how late in the game we're talking about the attack, right? So it's a little bit crazy as we kick this off. We do have in the bottom right side, down a game, it is Stephano.
And over the bottom left-hand side, we have the blue Terran player. It is souL. Got a nice little early pool over here, or pool first, I should say.
Yeah, definitely gives Stephano some chance to set this up, get some damage done early, right? It could absolutely lead into some of that early aggression.
Yeah, now, usually, I mean, there's the different levels of commitment with your early pool and everything. We always like to talk about how many Zerglings you end up making. If you make just the 2 Zerglings, you're looking at like delay a command center that was put on the low ground. If you make 4 Zerglings, you're looking at maybe kill the SCV or something, so on and so forth. Up until like 8 Zerglings, you're trying to get a cancel. And so far, we actually already have immediately 6 Zerglings started up. And the Reaper is going to have to be dodged. You have to try and send these Zerglings around a pathway that the Reaper is not going to encounter them.
Yeah, if those Lings can avoid the Reaper, and this obviously Reaper comes across the map, which it should, right? You know, souL has not SCV scouted, so he doesn't know that this is a pool first. You can't play around it at all. This is a pretty big opportunity for Stephano to already start a bit of a delay in a game. Maybe that gives him some options after, and it can definitely scare souL as to, oh, if you've gone pool first, the possibility of a fast roach attack, especially after you already went roaches in the first one.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, the Reaper is moving up straight north, and actually, oh, it darts back down. Oh my God, souL, you were so close. Oh, is not going to find it, but I mean, at least the Reaper is closer to being at home. It's already on its way back in a sense. So I think with only 2 Lings on that SCV, he may not actually end up getting it.
Yeah, he might not get it. Obviously, the delay oftentimes counts for quite a bit here. He's going to get the reactor, though, for your Dragon. You can't repair the reactor because it's still building. So the Lings will break through into the main, and that's obviously a big annoyance because that's now a lot more SCVs coming off the line and might even turn into a kill at some point. Just a big annoyance and keeps the Reaper here. And again, during all of this, you've really got to be concerned with souL. Is he building roaches? Are they coming across the map next? No, they're not, but souL doesn't know that.
It's so annoying right now. And it's going to also be that awkward time where like, okay, well, normally I'd be building 2 Hellions at a time right now. I have 1 Hellion being built. He hasn't done that swap around. The barracks has to rebuild that reactor. Bunker is actually going to be coming on up. Where is that bunker?
It's just on the high ground.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. I was like, usually I'd expect the bunker on like the low ground or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is hyper safe, like you were saying.
Yeah, he's really worried about roach attack, right? And if the roach is already like halfway across the map, you kind of just need the high ground bunker because low ground isn't going to cut it. If that gets cancelled, it's it's just not going to go well for you, right? As Overlord speed finishes here for Stephano. Sorry, not Overlord speed. I saw Overlord speed there. My apologies. Link speed going to finish up for him though, and that should give him a bit more map control back, help him push this creep out safely with the queens, which is obviously big for him.
Okay, well, at the end of the day, Stephano is just going to be getting up that third base nice and safely. Now, it is kind of that weird point in the game where your creep spread is not quite over at your third base just yet, and your opponent has a bunch of these Hellions running around, so usually you're not going to see too many drones over there, so that's why Stephano has got a little bit of over drone saturation at his natural, but he's going to start transferring them around and using these queens to try and zone out the Hellions, and it does give souL a bit of an opportunity to try and get some damage done as he does load up 4 of those Hellions in the medevac and starts dropping over to the main base.
Yeah, I like it, right? A little bit of a way to switch it up, try and get some damage early. He's going Widow Mines behind it too. Stephano's in position though, and those Lings will not do much at all. And sorry, those Hellions will not do much at all as the Lings try and get a little bit of a surround again. Really good defense. But of course, from souL, right, this is still just a threat on the map. Like, you know, the Hellions lift up, they'll go elsewhere, they can drop back down. They can still be that presence on the map that you need them to be. And of course, most importantly, they're still around, so you have an option to use them defensively when you do move out to your third base to help against run buys. As again, souL pretty late on the third with that fastest impact.
Now, I mean, one of the downsides is that when you do try and go for that more committed attack into, like, say, a mineral line or dropping into the main base and stuff, is that the queens have a lot more leeway to just set up creep spread at that front lines. But it has been between the natural and the third. It hasn't really been on the north side of the third. So as this drop comes into here, we actually end up seeing the rest of the Hellions make their way up from the north side of the third base, trying to find some damage. Liberator also comes in. Some really, really nice multi-prong aggression over here as the Widow Mines managing to pair together with Liberator and getting a ton of worker kills.
Wow, 10, 11 workers down. There's only queens on this base, and so the Hellions just don't die that quickly. 14 workers fall. Obviously, lots of drones pulling around, so lost mining time all over the place. And souL already seeming like he's getting a bit of control here on Golden Wall.
Really, really like how all that pressure ended up playing out over there for souL. He's also got some Hellions kind of behind the Lings now, so this becomes a kind of weird position for Stephano, who I imagine is going to try and poke forward, see that, oh, it's not a wall! 40! The SC, oh no, the SCV that finished the command center was walling it off and then it moved. Oh, that's so annoying. It's not going to be the most damage, but it's really, really frustrating.
I wonder if it's actually even that good for Stephano with how many Lings he loses and the fact he may need those Lings to defend soon.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, 4 SCVs isn't that much, right, for how many Lings there were.
I know. It is actually just a bait. It was entirely intentional by souL, is what you're saying.
Yes. No,
Wouldn't that be
obviously not
great,
intentional, but it worked out well, right?
Yeah. Well, there is going to be a move out over here from souL, like you were saying, and those two siege tanks. So you should have a safe journey across the map. There is going to be this difficult point over here where the queens have been setting up a lot of creep tumors, and if that last round of creep is able to get up right before the scan expires, it's going to be kind of annoying. Yeah, soul scan does expire, so one or two creep tumors actually do manage to finish up, so gonna have to use up an extra scan over here if he wants to continue committing. But no, looks like he's gonna just try and take the fight before all of this.
Yeah, just gonna go straight in. No Bane speed yet, right? So as long as there's no Bane speed, I think soul's very happy with those chances, because you know you can target down those Banes. What are you gonna do to clean this up? Run the Lings in? Upgrades are gonna be even all the time. Yeah, I mean, Stephano has the right idea of counterattacking. Definitely his best option, I think, to get something done. That is, of course, an open gold base at the moment.
Very, very wide open gold base. There's hardly any Marines over here. Siege tank is already sieged up a little bit further back, so I don't think you want to go over to the natural, but at the same time, soul's trying to push up into Stephano's natural, is managing to target fire down a few of these queens, but the transfuse is keeping them alive. Now the Marines getting loaded up into the medevac, getting to retreat back a little bit and heal up as the Hellbats actually now morphed in are going to be able to try and continue this pressure, but soul still needs to reestablish that third base during all of this.
Well, Army of soul continues to press forwards here. I mean, just the siege position is so hard to break when there's no creep spread around, right? I mean, Stephano's really brave putting down the hydrogen. It's maybe the right thing that he needs eventually, but my mind would be clearing this up here and now. He is going to run it from two sides, and that might be the number of units to do it with. Let's see what the Banelings can do, man. This tank's still getting so many shots off. I feel like soul almost gave up on these Marines. He's like, wait, they're still alive? Took Stephano a long time to finish everything off.
I know, and you were just mentioning the siege tank. I mean, really nice focus fire during that. The siege tank getting each and every one of those individual banelings that you can pick off the free extra bit of damage. And soul did manage to establish his third base again behind all this safely. Has a few of those Marines up, has a sensor tower being built as well, so you can see any of these kind of move outs from Stephano a little bit faster. I really like the way that soul has been situating himself in this game, but like you said, that Hydra Den was on the way earlier. It's now finished up, and he's got a few Hydras now coming on out.
Yeah, those few Hydras coming up here, obviously going to be a pretty nice addition. Nice that he got that Hydra Den down. Obviously, still, I love the fact he's already building double Liberators. Liberators are actually great against Hydras if you can get enough of them up. You get to the upgrades. Maybe not so much like in the mid game, like where we are now, but like later game, especially with upgrades, those Liberators work wonders because the Hydras just can't get in range of them before too many go down. It's just not cost efficient. So yeah, Stephano bringing this out to a later game for your Dragon. It definitely feels as though we're getting to a point where, you know, there's a bit of a game on the line compared to what felt like the Soul Show a little bit earlier on.
Oh, absolutely. And I gotta say, you know, Stephano's even got those faster upgrades with Q2 now finishing up over here with melee and also the Carapace upgrade. soul still gonna have another 30 or so seconds before he gets his, so he needs to be careful not to take too many super direct fights until those upgrades finish on up. But Hive Tech is also getting started up. Oh, Medevac gets very low on hit points. The Queen gonna try and go for the kill. Has to back off though. Only Hydra support there.
Fun that the Queen and the Medevac survive for the moment. Is on the top side, there's a little drop of still trying to get the hatch. He will continue to target it down. There's just not enough Marines, but of course that's damage that will stay there for a while. So that's pretty nice overall as the creep spread still pushing out into the middle of the map. And now these first couple Liberators just going to show up as harassment. Definitely a map where you can get into some annoying positions. And again, just with Hydras, no mutas or anything, a little tough to take those Liberators down.
Really quick pull over there from the drones for Stephano and just immediately just sends them over to the newly finished hatchery instead, so he's not losing too much mining time. We got another potential big push out over there. He finds a bunch of these overlords actually, and in the meanwhile, he's also going to be sending that Liberator down to another location, trying to siege up. But man, Stephano has just been so on top of all of this Liberator pass and all these Marine pulls and everything that dropped. He's been on top of all of it, but now finally just charging straight through the center, not going for some kind of roundabout attack. Stephano does not have the units in position.
Yeah, you're completely right. He was doing really well dealing with everything until just then, and that's the one moment where he let it slip. And unfortunately, that's a lot of Queens going down, so that's a lot of the potential to rebuild that creep spread, which was just cleaned out, gone. And that obviously gives soul a better chance, you know, really sets soul up a bit better for the later stages now.
Oh no, the Liberator. It's actually getting a couple of bailing kills on the way out. Not exactly the way that Stephano wanted that to go down, but man, I've got to say, you know, souL has been putting on light bits of pressure in the later stages of this, and it hasn't really been working out as well. But I do think that he's now situated in a place where he's got up a pretty scary looking army. He is going to be hitting before Stephano actually started up 3-3 or anything. So his upgrades are now pretty much tied in timing with Stephano as opposed to kind of upgrade lead that Stephano had earlier. And this is looking to be a really, really scary attack.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all those tanks sieged up. There's not much creep to help work against it. And especially tanks against the Hydras, right? It's really hard for the Hydras to break through tank lines like this. The thing is with Hydras, though, they are very good at kind of holding their own as well at times. I'm just not sure if they can do it against this much, as we do see Stephano from the top and from the bottom. All the tanks coming into play. I mean, still really needs to get rid of those Banes, which he's done. But yeah, the flank in from both sides is enough, and that's all of the tanks gone.
Yeah, the tanks were extremely vulnerable pretty early on into that fight, just because that bottom right-hand flank did not have that many Marines buffering for the tanks. And so the Hydra was able to just get on top of them almost immediately and start sniping them off one by one. So souL losing a lot of that army in exchange for that base. I'm not sure how he's going to feel about that. That was the 5th base over there for Stephano. And he is pretty now oversaturated that top right-hand base. I mean, just looking at the economy, I guess Stephano's not exactly mining super duper healthily on most of his other bases outside of the top right.
Yeah. I'm impressed by Stephano. He's really, you know, we talked about him being able to drag games down and get into that later game, and this is exactly it, right? Being able to get to this stage. And I started to get, in a way, like, I feel like against some time players, I started to get a bit worried for them. But actually for souL, I feel like souL's like, yes, you're playing where I want to be, right? Extra starports, get my fusion core started. He's very ready for this. And it is still Lingbane Hydra from Stephano, so I really wouldn't mind just with the fusion core and advanced ballistics going into Liberator range, and maybe just building up that Liberator count again a little bit to really hold off those stronger Hydra pushes compared to what the Zerg would usually have at this stage.
Yeah, it really feels like the Liberators just keep going in and are just like, every single Liberator I make is for the sake of killing drones and harassing. Not really a whole lot actually going into that big main army that he's been building up, as even this Liberator trying to buy a little bit of space, while the Medivacs did end up, I think, retreating back to this little alcove. Oh my god, this is just becoming a little Terran air army that's sitting in the corner.
I know. Unfortunately, this Liberator tries to make a move and it gets shot down pretty quickly. Those Hydras were still there. I like this from Stephano, finally making more use out of this hive tech. Viper's on the way. You know, we've got that Ultra's Cavern dropping down. It's the tools that he definitely needs to start cleaning this up a little bit. Well, Ultra Cavern dying, but I'd love to see that rebuilt because it does feel like the right sort of idea. Ultras are an interesting choice though, because usually you don't necessarily need to go Ultras, because the role the Ultra fills when you play like Lingbane or Lingbane Muta is it buffs up your army, right? It makes it that bit stronger. This is Lingbane Hydra, so the army is already that little bit better as he has a nice catch here in the center. So you don't necessarily always need Ultras, and sometimes you can kind of make like a switch up towards Broodlords initially. So I wouldn't even mind to see like a Spirestorm alongside this, so he has some tech switch potential, because I don't think Ultras are bad all the time. It's good to switch between them. Just don't know if he really needs Ultras without trying to maybe just go Lingbane Hydra with the Vipers and being aggressive.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried just because the ghost count is already pretty gosh darn high. I mean, we have 6 ghosts already out, and still I think a few more were being made. And the Liberators of the advanced ballistics that you were talking about. And granted, the Liberator count isn't exactly super high. It's just at 2 right now because he's been harassing with all of them. But I agree with you. I think Ultras can make some really, really good like magic happen over here. I'm just also afraid of like the counter side of that, of like of a bad fight for Stephano here looks really bad with that kind of army composition for souL.
Yeah, I don't mind the Ultra Cavern if he doesn't build Ultras like right away. I like the Ultras as like a remax tool, maybe a counterattack tool. I don't feel like they need to be a major part of the army just yet, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm on board with that then. As he is already maxed out, so he's got to trade something out anyways, but hopefully it's not going to be drones, as the Liberator's actually getting some good damage done, and souL is continuing to push on forward.
And lots of snipes off here as well, mostly just on the Overseers, which is okay as well, because it is something you want to rebuild, and it does cost gas, and obviously sniper's free. Really nice denial of the gold base, and there's just nothing really out to deal with that. Now there's Liberator range especially, right? These are just bases you can't handle, and this is another reason that 17 minutes in the game, you should probably have a Spire. And now you don't. You actually just lose bases that you just can't mine from them at the moment.
Yeah, not having corruptors or anything to clean up those liberators is definitely going to start getting very, very annoying here for Stephano. souL still actually has not cleared up a lot of the creep in the center, but so it's really just that top base where he's going to be going for a nuke right now. That seems like the more vulnerable location. And okay, the Overseer is here. Should be able to kill off that ghost very quickly.
I like the idea, though, that nuke's already, that base is already low. A nuke would get it very close to dying, though. I also love Stephano counterattacking through here, making use of this opening from these minerals having been mined out. Now, souL's next base is the one in the bottom left side of the map, so this is also nice that Stephano's here because it maybe gives him options on that phase too. As posturing in the middle of the map, but nothing much happening, just a few links extending a little bit too far. As we do have 6 libs at a time with the first Ultra now in production.
Yeah, still got that ultra speed upgrade also coming along with Burrow. I like that. I finally added that on as well. Always a good upgrade to have. 6 Liberators being produced at a time for souL. That is definitely a pretty strong tech switch there.
Yeah, I love the Liberators. I feel like the Liberators work well against everything. You know, and the more libs you have, the more likely they're going to get used, right? Because, you know, if you have like 4 or 5 libs, they just get abducted and they're not sieged up anymore. But 6 libs at a time, it's a very different story. I love the Nidus as well from Stephano. You just mentioned Burrow. That gives him some options with Burrowed Banes. Now the Nidus will give him some counterattack options. And again, I really feel like that's where the Ultras can excel. You know, a couple of Ultras, as this first one just goes down in an instant. A couple of Ultras like popping out of a Nidus with some Lings can be a really annoying thing to deal with over in your main base.
Well, it does seem like Stephano really wants to try and take a trade over here. He ends up sacrificing a lot of the units on the far left-hand side pretty early on. They get annihilated by those siege tanks, but well, Stephano still has a pretty scary-looking army over here on the right and still has some creep spread to work with as well. And it seems like souL is a bit wary about just moving directly on. I see some scans coming on out, and I feel like every single time I see a scan now, I'm like, oh, he's preparing for some kind of nuke or something. But it's actually going to be Stephano that's going to trigger the next bit of harassment with the Nidus Storm coming on out.
Yeah, it's going to come out just as a nuke launches from this academy. So Fueling is just going to stream on through. The couple of ghosts already showing up, cloaked up. There's no Overseer here, if I'm not mistaken. So these ghosts will eventually get the job done. A bit of bio to help with not go and miss. And still loses a handful of SCVs, but nothing too major. As nuke didn't really land on anything. It was just in the middle of the map, kind of warning Stephano from doing much with an army or anything.
Yeah, I remember the nuke, when the nuke goes off, you don't necessarily know where that little red dot is. So you got to scan around and like find every single one of your bases where your drones are at. Make sure that your army isn't about to be nuked or anything. So it does take a bit of attention, guaranteed attention every single time away from Stephano. So makes it a little bit harder right before a fight, or if you're trying to do your own harassment, try and get it done.
I can't believe he's not built a Spire, by the way. Because I really just feel like, you know, yes, you can abduct those Liberators into range, but that's so annoying. You've got to send a Viper up there. You've got to get Hydras there. Yeah, it's energy on your Vipers, and I know they get them back quickly, but it just feels like it gives souL a chance to get into position. It just feels like it's letting those Liberators get way more done than they necessarily should be. You know, it's just build a Spire, build like a couple Corruptors, and it really helps straight away. And Corruptors aren't a bad thing to have against the Liberators either.
Absolutely.
Just in like a fight.
You know, Wardy, it's definitely not because he can't afford it, because he has a 8.5k mineral bank and a almost 4k gas bank. These Ling run-bys actually into the main base are pretty annoying. So one Liberator still set up here from the earlier part where the Nidus Storm is out. And the Nidus Storm actually goes up on top of the Liberator siege up, which is pretty funny as well. But this should eventually get cleaned up, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what comes out of the Nidus network in the end. He's just not going to unload anything, which I think makes sense as well, right? The Liberator's there. If like 3 Ultras suddenly showed up, then I'd be like, well, you know, maybe you can actually make something happen. But he actually only ever made that 1 Ultra, right? And he's just not gone back into them since, which again, I don't disagree with. It's actually kind of what I asked for when we first saw that Ultras cap, and I don't think there was necessarily much need for them. Which again kind of brings the question, why wouldn't he just build a Spire and maybe make Corruptors at the very least, which would be good? You know, a few Broodlords might not even be bad either. Again, if you force like some Vikings or something, and then maybe you switch into the Ultras and that gives you more of an option. It just feels like Stephano's done the same thing for 10 plus minutes now, and souL is very aware of what he's doing, and he's very comfortable with handling it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't immediately make the Spire units, if for some reason you don't even want to make one Corruptor just to deal with some of these Liberators that are making their way around harassing, I think just having it as an option, just having it available for you, if you do need to make that big transition, will be really, really helpful.
I mean, what if you just suddenly start, like, I mean, we're a long way off from this happening, but what if you just suddenly showed up with like some BCs, right? And
yeah,
then,
I mean, he's got the Fusion Core already.
Yeah, you know, a super late game BC switch, and then Hydras just don't really do damage if those BCs have full plane upgrades, so it can get pretty rough as the Ghost Gang caught in a few of those Baneling connections. They get their snipes cancelled. Big push forward, but I mean, this is like a scene from the box art as the Hydras are pushing into just wave after wave and layer of Terran units here. And Stephano has the money to rebuild, yes, but so does souL.
Yeah, I also want to commend souL on getting some really, really juicy EMPs off with those ghosts on the Vipers. So I only saw one blinding cloud coming out, but the Liberators weren't able to be pulled out of position, and it just made it so much worse for Stephano trying to push into that. The base does get sniped off over here by souL's drop, and I mean, I've got to say, Stephano's been going for some pretty aggressive bases on that bottom side. It was actually trying to even expand over to souL's side, and now we got a cheeky little Nidus Worm down here on the low ground, which minerals still actually haven't been mined out over here. But given the fact that we've seen some Ling run bys, I'm not sure if that's actually a good thing or a bad thing.
He just dropped a lot of mules, which are going to be sacrificed pretty much immediately because those units go straight down to clean it up. So they weren't the most useful. As a big nuke could potentially go down on that gold base. The ghost is still alive. And there's a lot of drones there. Doesn't look like Stephano. Okay, he sees it at the last moment, but the Lings now ran into it. Oh my goodness, Ultras too.
All right. Not bad. There's also a fight over in the bottom left-hand side as we end up seeing those reinforcements getting cleaned on up by the Liberators. And then Bio over here. I guess it was good that he didn't mine out those minerals, because then the army couldn't go up to the production.
Yeah.
Looks like this ghost has gotten quite a bit of damage done to that hatchery. And souL is starting to really start taking out a lot of these mining bases here.
Yeah, he's getting some nukes down as well. Actually getting some drone kills with all of them too. I mean, this is the thing. The one big thing is that souL can't mine the bottom left. If souL can mine those bases, very different story. Hold on to that thought, because there goes all of the Ultras moving through. All of these Libs. Again, there's not really a way to get rid of these Liberators. They're just left standing. The Ultras' answer is just to run past them. But what if you want to retreat? Now you've got to go back through the Liberator zones.
Oh, no.
I mean, the Ultras try and find a better way through, and the couple survive. But this was super expensive from Stephano, and a few moments ago, we were actually pretty even in resources lost. There's now a 7,000 difference.
That's really going to start making a tough situation here, I feel like, for Stephano, because it's so hard with the army composition that Stephano's going for to be cost efficient against this many Liberators, a bunch of ghosts, a well-entrenched Terran player that's also just finding little ways to harass you with things like nukes. I mean, you do start to feel that pressure as a Zerg player. Like, how do I take a fight? How do I aggressively use these Ultras and make something happen? Because you don't want to use the Ultras defensively usually.
No, absolutely. As we're going to see another nuke, this base may finally go down. Yeah, Stephano's on his way up to try and clean it up. Looks like he wants to try and save the base, but the detection just ain't there. And that's goodbye to the hatchery. There's another nuke lines up on the gold base. And this is the thing, right? Because if Stephano is able to outmine souL, this is brilliant. And that's why it's so amazing to kind of stop souL getting the bottom left bases for so long. But right now, he's not stopped the bottom left bases. Now the bottom left bases are going up, and souL is trading better. And that's just going to be souL lining up the win conditions at this stage. As another Ultra goes down, I just feel like there's not been enough switches from Stephano. Like, souL has just built the same stuff for so long at this point because it's not needed to swap it out at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe Stephano's big thing here is that he just wants to stay mobile, because now the entire map is getting split up between the north and the south side. You kind of see it over here. Right now, souL's army has to make its way through the gold base choke point to try and reinforce these bases he's losing over on the north side. So I do like this. Stephano is getting damage done on both sides and has an army mobile enough to just retreat. He's going to be taking some losses over here, but I mean, at least it's just Lings he's losing right now, but he's getting bases in exchange.
See? This is the sort of thing where I'm like, you know, I look at this and I'm like, I'd like this with Stephano if this was done 10 minutes ago and he has something different to then end up fighting the Terran army. Or even, you know, if he does this 10 minutes ago, maybe this army can work out because you outbuild souL, but it just feels like it's all too little too late. A couple Widow Mines are going to clean up another Ultralisk here, and that's the thing. I still don't feel like souL is in any true danger throughout all of this.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time also the Vipers have not really been that impactful. I mean, the Vipers didn't actually get EMP'd in that last fight, but they've been either EMP'd or they kind of just feel like they're sitting around waiting for Liberators or something to show up so that they can abduct them instead of using Blinding Cloud on the bio or anything else like that. Oh, this is going to be a nice base pickoff as the Hydras are there to clean it up even after the liftoff attempt.
Oh, Parasitic Bomb gets split away from, costs him a Viper. This is the thing, right? How many times have we just seen Stephano kind of have fights where he just loses units without getting much out of it? He actually has brought the resources lost back a bit, and that number is really important at this stage as we get to a mined out map almost. A couple bases that, you know, especially on this bottom side that have minerals left on them. They'll counter attack on the top side, a few minerals there. If Stephano can trade evenly and then they both, you know, find a way to mine those bases.
I don't think you want to fight into that.
This could be good for him. Yeah, I don't believe there's any way you fight this, right? He does cancel all of the ghost snipes though, but there's so many Liberators. Abducting them out of position is great and all, but a little bit of bio just going to lift up, relocate. The Libs are firing throughout the entire time, and you can just see Stephano's supply drops heavily, and he just needs to decide what he's going to rebuild. A nuke lands on the gold in amongst all of this because, hey, that's the problem. If you're focusing on these fights with Stephano, you're not looking around the map for that little red dot.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also realizing now that the fact that souL has repeatedly nuked that gold base has created another awkward thing, which is right now, Stephano has been using that gold base as the pathway between the north and the south side of the map. And it's been left still with minerals there. So he actually just gets choked up every single time he tries to move units back and forth between that, especially on the Ultras. Huh.
It's still just, again, we're 30 minutes in now for your Dragon. And I don't think we've seen a new unit or anything different from Stephano for so long. I did like it when he started to split up and go different directions. It feels like souL has so much... I mean, at this stage as well, does souL even care about the top left of the map? He's basically mined out there. And that allows him to put so much more focus on this bottom side. And then the issue is for Stephano is with so much more focus on the bottom side of the map, he can't get that base up. And if he can't get that base up, I know I keep saying it, but he's not going to mine enough to keep trading out with souL. His bank is disappearing and it's disappearing fast. Okay, souL doesn't have a lot of gas left either, but he does have 2 fresh bases essentially that he's just started mining from, so...
Oh, I'm completely with you on this. And you see, they're about to be fighting over for this base on the south side. That's kind of on Stephano's side of the south. But, I mean, that's the thing. souL wants to set up a nice defensive position. Stephano wants to be the aggressor, but Stephano wants to be the aggressor where there isn't a defense. I don't really know if it's going to matter that he's attacking all that much on the north side. Like, there's another attack from Stephano on the north. Does souL quite care?
souL's like, oh no, my few mules out of my 20 orbitals or something have gone down. He's like, well, I got a few minerals off them, right? And, you know, these orbitals, etc., they only have limited uses. You can lift them up, fly a few away. There's a bit of production up here, sure, and it's nice to get rid of that. But you're right, the entire bottom side of the map is where this game is going to revolve around now. And now he's actually losing units trying to trade out with the planetary. I know it's just a few seconds, but this is actually getting to the point where even those few lings... What does killing this planetary do? Remove this position from the map? Maybe it just doesn't do anything for you. You kill an orbital, that's nice and all, but again, you're working off 7 orbitals still on the map here actually as souL. It's the bottom bases that are the issue, and Stephano has 0 answer to that. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just like the bottom center bases. Actually, the low ground natural there from Stephano's side of the map, kind of below his main base. Even that actually still has gas on it, which souL is very much so going to like. So he can actually continue to expand into his opponent's main base in a sense, take that gas geyser and just secure these bottom 3 bases.
And where that nuke just lined up as well, there's so much gas there. There's actually 3,000 gas there that Stephano, because of all the nuke pressure, just has not actually been able to settle down and mine from. And that's a huge deal, right? If you have 3,000 extra gas, those minerals that he's in his bank are so much more useful. There's so much more you can do with it at that stage. Yeah, again, Stephano's clearing out bases that are, you know, long past their expiry date anyways from souL. So while all of that looks great, it's just not really achieving anything for him in the long run here.
Yeah. Actually, even the gold base that has been repeatedly nuked over and over and over again until finally now Marine Marauder cleaned it up. That has 1,250 gas on it. That's actually a pretty decent amount of, that's more gas than Stephano has right now.
Yeah. No, it's definitely true. And then, you know, a lot of these, you know, he's spending his minerals on a lot of lings, but what are we seeing these lings achieve, right? They're like running in, they're kind of dying off. And we're kind of like, oh, well, it's just lings, but that's his mineral bank. And if he doesn't have a mineral bank, then he's not going to build anything more useful. And again, those lings just, it's hard to be positive for Stephano right now because we can just see where this game is going. It's a bit of a slow death. Stephano needs to like wipe souL's army so drastically that he can run across the map and go and camp the production. I think that's his only real play right now. But how do you wipe the army in that kind of way when souL's got ghosts and liberators and these kind of numbers?
Yeah, and just look at the army is actually starting to take out some of the tech over here for Stephano. And I mean, yes, there was another spawning pool remade, but there most certainly is not another hive or even a lair. So that actually means Viper production is now halted. Baneling nest game taken out means there's no more of those. Hydra Den going to be next. This is becoming a really problematic right now. And Stephano's just not in a position to even do a real substantial counterattack.
Nope. He has, I mean, where do you counterattack, right? Like,
yeah,
you go through the natural into the main, into production or so. Maybe that's probably the best location, right? But souL has such a good set of units on the bottom right that he can actually leave so much to deal with a counterattack like that. And yeah, I mean,
he's only got a spawning pool and a Nidus Worm now.
Yeah. What's the mass Nidus? He can jump around the map and run away.
Yeah, I guess he's been sitting at 669 gas for, you know, a few minutes now. So I guess it doesn't really matter because all he could make anyways were lings and queens. But oof.
I love that souL is at the point where he's like, you know what? I've got so many nukes. I'm just going to land one somewhere you might run, just in the hope I get the nuke of a lifetime. Like,
oh, no. Oh,
that's
no.
when souL's having fun.
I guess these are the some of the few remaining Ghost Academies. Actually, there are the last Ghost. There's only one Ghost Academy left, so.
That's nice. Removes the nukes a little bit, right? You know, I can more.
Right side of life, 40.
You know, I think a Ghost Academy died early in this game. I was like, well, it's not that much that he's killing. And it really isn't because it's, you know, souL still has money to rebuild it if he really wants to, right? And it's just like, well, yeah, he can. He can kind of do what he wants. Stephano's maxed out. It's one fight. It's one army, and that's it. souL's even going to mine Stephano's gold minerals. I mean, anything you can take away from him to make this even easier for yourself.
Actually, you know what? Can we just get a shot of the income tab or, you know, something like that? Because right now it has been 0 gas for Stephano, 200 minerals a minute, actually down to like 150 minerals a minute. That is, to put this in perspective, when someone cannon rushes and then they get a ling run by with 4 workers left over, they're still mining more. 4 workers mining will mine more minerals than Stephano is mining right now.
Right now, 1 worker would. He's on 0 income.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah. He's down to 0 income whatsoever. Still got 42 drones though.
Yeah, which are running around the map being like, where can we mine from next? What do we do?
Oh man, at this point, since there's barely anywhere to even mine, would you just, and you really don't have a whole lot of hopes, just make them to spores or spines or something and start creep pushing toward your opponents?
That would be better, right? Because actually drones in a fight are only just going to get in the way of lings, really. Unless they're going to be like your second wave of tanking for the Hydras.
Oh, that is not the fight you want to take.
No, I mean, there is no fight you want to take with Stephano, I don't think. But this one especially not. This is all from one direction. This is going to be the souL show right now. I mean, it ducks a couple of units. Widow Mine's going off everywhere. The snipes are plenty. And souL is just going to continue to clean out. He's sniping, you know, Hydra after Hydra. He's letting the Widow Mines do the work. And he's just going to turn back into this. And as Vipers and Hydras and Ultras go down, souL even sends up a celebratory nuke. GG is called.